Dimp Digital presents Idle Game Chat.
Cool.
So here we are then, Logan, trialling a new format for Idle Game Chat, unbelievably.
Are we?
Well, kind of is, because there is going to be no news this week. Because we were recording this earlier in the week than usual. I kind of sat there and I thought, well, you've got a couple of options. There's only two options, isn't there? Well, it's three options. One, you just bin it and say, well, that ain't happening this week, which is a fair option to have. But then, as I've said to the audience, once you slip once, you might as well just quit altogether. So if we don't appear one week, I always say either a tragedy has happened or we've just retired and not told anyone. So keep an eye on that if it's not a bank holiday. The second option was to just run with some news cycle stuff and hope something was generated. All I could dig up in the last few days was Xbox has created world's first ever pizza scented controller.
Yeah.
The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles themed controls will be given away. And I thought, that's not enough to run a podcast on. If that's the level of toot that's being churned out.
I could probably rant about creating a pizza flavoured? Is it flavoured the right?
Well,
scented controller. I could probably rant about that for 45 minutes if necessary.
What is the scent of a pizza? Because surely it depends on the toppings.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, it does in its entirely, whether it's wood-fired or oven.
True, yes.
So,
how's the pasta been cooked?
I mean, if it's made by Microsoft, it'll be those Yanks, so it won't be wood-fired. It'll be more like a Chicago-style deep pan. Had one of those actually not so long ago. Surprisingly good. You forget about it.
What the Chicago branded ones?
Yeah, so you know when it's like the crust comes up like a pie.
Yeah.
And then it's pizza in the middle.
Yeah.
Good. So if you haven't had one of them since you're a kid, give it a go.
I like all pizzas, and I'd like to actually go to America just to try, something like that.
Honestly, I think it would just be such slop. You'd be like, I can't believe this is what they eat.
Well, that's just what I want. I just have to stay out
Mind
there,
you, they'd come over and get a Domino's.
Well, I was going to say actually, my original point was I like all different pizzas, whether it's thin, deep pan, classic, or whatever that is. But I'll often, if I do have to get that slop Domino's, which is overpriced and of bad quality, I will often go for that thin and crispy option.
Yeah.
Just a bit lighter, but then I can inhale a large in like 10 minutes, and I think, well, was there room for more? And I think, well, what am I doing here? It's a large pizza, for fuck's sake. So
it's because that bread ain't filling you up, that dough.
True, but then I think I don't need it. That's sort of like for me, it's the cheese, it's the tomato or the barbecue sauce, and then
I'm fully with you on the thin and crispy. Fully with you on it. I think deep pan, all these funny
get ache after that
options and stuff.
It's a recipe to be sitting there afterwards going, oh. I know that the answer is don't order a large and eat it yourself. I know that, but why would I? When the value is that much better to get a large pizza over a medium, one pound more.
They know that as well.
Oh, of course.
They know that.
They know. So yeah, that's why essentially that was ruled out, because that would have been our lead-off point. Would have been a scented
did it anyway.
Controller. We did it anyway. They're going to be given away though. It's a raffle of sorts, is what I'm reading.
Would you want that?
I mean, no. But I wouldn't mind having it just because I know it'll be worth thousands one day, wouldn't it?
I used the wrong terminology. Would you use that?
No. Because I would think, I know it's clearly been designed so that this doesn't happen, but I'd think, are my hands going to smell of pizza afterwards? As I've grown up, I've gone through life like refusing to eat whilst I'm playing games to get hands smelly and then therefore getting the controller smelling the food. I don't want a food scented controller in my room touching my hands because I know it won't. I'm sure the scent doesn't rub off, but it still annoy me. It would just literally be in its box and it'd be waiting for 10 years and then it'd be sold on eBay.
Yeah,
bizarre land, man or woman.
I struggle with the idea of it, to be honest, and who's jumping at the idea of that. I mean, imagine if it was strong and you were just sitting there playing your game and all you can smell is pizza. You'd be like, God, I'm fucking hungry. Like, yeah, I think I mean, obviously it's a promotional thing for the film, but yeah, I thought it was a bit of a weird one, to be honest. But I wondered whether you'd actually use it or even want it, because it doesn't even look particularly good.
No, well, it's designed to deliver the smell of the turtle's beloved meal to your game time. These exclusive Xbox wireless controllers come with a built-in scent diffuser shaped like a slice of delicious New York pizza, said Xbox's Josh Stein. But
So that's what that shit was sticking out the back of it. It annoyed me so much I didn't even read the article.
No. It's okay, it's got that on the back of it. The controllers come in 4 variations, each representing the signature colours, weapons and personality of the Turtle brothers, Leonardo, Raphael, Donatello and Michelangelo, who is the best, as we know.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what could have been a mainstay topic, but you know, we've kind of wasted a bit of time on it anyway, so perhaps we should have started that option. The third option was just to come up with random topics that are timeless. Evergreen content, they call this.
Evergreen
But then we slap a game review at the end of it, which is probably... Well, they're not even evergreen, because they're over a year old, some of those recordings. So they are evergreen at this stage. I've made them evergreen by not publishing them for a year. So I've forced the issue. It's so far out of date that it doesn't even matter anymore. We might as well just listen to it. So all the references to weather and politics or whatever we do will be well out of date.
Completely outdated, yeah.
Need to probably get them out more timely, but there we go.
No, I think it's better that way.
I do as well. It's minimum effort as well, and that's what we want. So that's what we're going to do today. This is Idle Game Chat, Dimp Digital's flagship video game podcast. We used to take you through the ups and downs of the video game world. That was the opening for a long, long time. But I'm not sure we do that anymore. We're on your favourite podcast app and YouTube, though. That's free. But if you do want to support this grassroots and independent endeavour, patreon.com/Dimp Digital's the place to go. # hand in pocket. I've been streaming a little bit. I think that's what's done my back in, to be honest, of an evening. I mean, last night I streamed for 4 hours.
What are you streaming?
Fire Pro Wrestling World.
There's a text me before you do it next time, because these fucking notifications ain't working. I want to see what that's all about.
It's I'm playing the promoter mode, which is where it's like a tycoon mode basically. So you know, you've got a budget and all that shit, and you sign people, put on the matches, build popularity, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But I think sitting there for so long, and because I'm streaming, I think, well, I can't just keep getting up and stretching my legs. So I sat there for like a good 3 hours without moving. I think that's what does me back in. So I'm gonna have to think of I've just
eases up.
Well, and the thing is, when you're playing a game and sort of enjoying it and engaged, time does go quicker. So you've got to be mindful of that.
Yeah.
And that's something to be aware of. But that's Twitch.tv.
Set up on the Xbox. I'm pretty sure on the Xbox you can set reminders.
Yeah, I mean, I could set a reminder on my phone, couldn't I? Or I could just look at there's a fucking timestamp ticking away now that I could just look at and go, you've been sat there for an hour, so probably go and get a drink, because you've even run out of water and not refilled that for 2 hours because you're so bone idle. Several times I'll pick it up and be like, nope, that's gone. And rather than sorting the issue, I'll just sit there and won't have any water for hours.
Slowly just dehydrate yourself.
Yeah, so that's annoying that the back's playing up, but... Haven't had a problem all year, and then this is now starting to sting me over the halfway mark, but we'll get back on track with that. But yeah, that's the intro, I guess. Logan's here. Didn't introduce him.
Don't bother.
What are you, Grand Prix winner now? Resident referee. Could be FGO overall champion.
Gone from literally the bottom of the barrel, which is referee, because that's nothing, is it really? Don't even really need to be there. Just moral support and
it saves me to do something.
Value. Well, you do it anyway, and you've corrected me before, so
check the checker, innit?
Yeah, it is a 4-eye check. Yeah, exactly that. But yeah, it'd be good to have an additional layer to the title.
Yeah,
and on track for it.
On track for it.
Don't get cocky though.
Parky will start firing back soon, though. Just warn you, and it might.
Squeaky bum time.
Well, I think it'll be closer than what people may be thinking, but everything has to go his way at this point because of the averages and the amount of games you've pumped out. But Still time to go, and who knows? There might be a shock. Football Manager 2024 delay out of the year, and then it's the sort of thing that would happen to you. So
yeah, it is. Yeah, you're completely right. I've snatched defeat from the jaws of victory multiple times before winning it last year. There you go.
Just like that, Spurs in real life.
Yeah, exactly.
Parallels. Anyway, so we're just going to do a couple of random topics that I've thought up, and I've actually wrote down loads of them. Some of them are repeats. So I need to actually clean the list up. It's one of those things that I just add stuff, and we'll see how this goes. I mean, it's a sort of a trial run for it. We'll see what people think. Obviously, any negative opinions, keep them to yourself. Don't care.
Not interested in.
I want to know if you enjoyed it, not if you didn't enjoy it. Because sometimes it's
nice to say.
Yeah, exactly. I should take that advice sometimes. Poor old Phil gets crapped on, doesn't he? Constantly. Anyway, here's the overarching topic. Now, obviously, this can go in many different directions. That's sort of the beauty of this. There's no headline or facts for us to stick to, because often I'll have to sit through an article and think, right, what's actually happened, what are the facts, and try and keep us on track. This, we can just go anywhere. It really does not matter. There is no answer to this. There's no universal answer. And the audience can get involved. They could answer this question in the comments. They could answer in the comments or send a tweet. I don't know what was it called, X? Has that happened yet?
Well,
has it happened while this has gone up? That's a bet, isn't it?
Well,
do you reckon?
I reckon. Well, it went really quickly, didn't it, on Monday this week, and then it stalled. I think they're struggling. He literally said, if someone sends me, well,
what is he doing?
Dismantling it and creating what he wants. All he bought, really, when you actually think about it, was the guardrails.
He bought fucking attention, and then you mentioned the guardrails, and then he's just gonna do what he wants with it.
You would have thought that one of the strongest things about it would be his brand. He's just gone, nope. I've always liked the letter X. And you go, well, the thing is, who are we to argue?
No, at the end of the day, I mean, there's a lot of people that are saying, "Oh, he's ruining it," and he probably is slowly. But they're the same people that go, "I hate Twitter." Good then. If you hate it, tweeting it, I hate it. I hate this place. Huh?
Yeah. This place is going downhill.
Go on then.
And Elon quite frequently tweets out saying literally highest ever engagements and interactions and all that sort of stuff. So it's always interesting to see that. But I reckon it could be. I reckon it'll just, like, you'll wake up one day and it'll just be a rebrand. Done.
So you think before this podcast goes public?
I think there's a good chance. Okay. When does this go public? Monday?
Mondays these go. So you've got a few, got some time for him. If he gets to the weekend, he's not done it. That's probably curtains for it. But if in the next couple of days he starts to just pile it in and thinks I'm just going to slam this in Friday evening.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me.
No. Then we'll see what happens after that. When I go on Threads, that's what I'm told.
Nah.
You know what? I was doing another side project, thinking about doing another side project. So it's actually the week that Threads started up. So I was just doing like social media, like just creating accounts and whatnot. And I put in Threads because, who knows? I'll put it in. I downloaded this app and then it was like, sign in. And I was like, I ain't got to sign, have I? So went to go and sign up. And it said, just note, this is not the social media app Threads. And I was like, what? So when you first put Threads in on that day, a different app was coming up. They must have seen their numbers go through the roof and then just see loads of people just uninstall it and then go and find, I think it's Threads by Instagram it's called.
Yeah,
you have to search for it. But I was thinking those poor bastards probably woke up and thought, cool, we're going to get a load of money out of this, and then literally everyone just uninstalling it. I didn't even check to see what the app did. I had no idea what it does, that original one. So
yeah, poor bastards. All that effort.
It's
probably a clothing app or something.
Yeah, I would imagine. Well, that would make sense, but
sewing app?
Sewing. Threads. Well, Threads, bulletin boards, message board threads. Screws. Don't want to duff the threads on those because you can't use the cunts, can you? I've done that several times. Don't jam it in, they say. Don't force it. And I'm like, it won't go in, will it? And then it just keeps spinning. You think, well, now I fucked that. I haven't I?
What do we do here then?
Yeah. I hope there's a
That's that
spare,
done.
and inevitably there never is, because you just get given what is required
need.
and nothing else. Sometimes less than what you need. So that has to all
Yeah.
get packed up and go back. So we don't be buying stuff that needs to be put together now. I have to pay through the nose to have it pre-assembled. Thank you.
It's the way to do business, if you ask me. If you can, I refuse to do any more flat pack. Sick of it.
I'm sick of it as well. Can't be doing with it. Anyway, here's the question. Here's the topic. How many games do we have on our plate at once? And when we say plate, we mean how many games we're playing at once. We like to use the restaurant and menu business as a reference for these games. We have a menu of games that we have maybe shortlisted to play, and then you pick one out, you go, I'm going to start playing that, and you put it on your plate. You start picking things up. And I thought this would be an interesting discussion point, because do you split your games up by certain genres? You know, do you only ever have one first-person shooter or one sports game on the go? Do people split up their plate by platforms? You know, I've heard the story of, well, I have one on Switch, I have one on Xbox, I have one on PlayStation, I have one on PC. And has this habit changed over time? Did it start as something else, and then suddenly it's morphed into this new system? And obviously, do schedules, gaming or your own otherwise, dictate what goes on with this plate business? So you can take it in any direction you want. You can start from the top, you can start with what you do now, you can talk about the generality of this, because it is a bit of a conundrum, because there is, I think we've said this many times, there are just too many games that are out at the moment, so you can't play them all. So
I think where do you start with this? So I don't know whether I do this intentionally or not. I don't split them up, generally speaking, by genre. It's more around whether it's single player or multiplayer, I think, is the way that I break it out.
Is there a potential for a sub breakout within the multiplayer ranks of multiplayer party members? You know, you've got Cop playing this one, and then you've got I don't know, fucking Hall wants to play something else. Can that happen, or is it generally like, sorry, I want to play with one regular set of people, we're not doing Destiny Hall anymore?
I mean, no, we're not doing Destiny anymore, Hall. It's easy to go back and scratch that ish, but I feel like I have to draw the line under things. The problem in multiplayer is, where do you draw the line? I'm still playing Rocket League, so what are we doing? But I think generally speaking, like my general rule is only having one first-person shooter multiplayer on the go. Right. And there's more now than ever. Free to play, not free to play, like you name it. There's a real plethora out there. I don't split games. I mean, look, I don't do multiplayer on PlayStation or Switch anyway. So multiplayer is only ever confined to Xbox. And within that multiplayer genre, there can be as many spin-offs as necessary. Like, there's no limit, if you like, on game, on genre. Like, it's like, if it's multiplayer and there's people that are playing it and want to play it, and I want to play it, then I'm game. And I'll generally sort of, do it based on what I feel like playing and what the group feels like playing. I mean, me and you were doing The Division for a while.
I was going to say, does that count in that multiplayer bucket then? Yeah.
I would bolt on co-op as, because you got multi. Yeah, I mean, that is multiplayer to me, because I'm playing it with someone. Like, I basically class multiplayer. I don't sort of put that as in like sub-genres. I don't say that's co-op, that's competitive multiplayer. Like, I generally will just go multiplayer bucket. And generally speaking, that's my favourite bucket. Like, I enjoy playing games socially as well, which is strange for me. Wow. But I just enjoy, and always have enjoyed, like, playing games with people. Like, even when you go back to when we were kids, like, generally there was always someone round, or you play games before online gaming.
Well, I tried to ask you about that Pets game, didn't I? And you've forgotten about all these conversations.
Yeah, I have. As we know, my memory isn't the best, but yeah, it goes back to all the way to the beginning, really.
Granshaw.
That is the genesis of the of the Apps and Logan gaming discussions.
That was pets. Dogs.
Dogs.
It was Zeds, wasn't it?
Cats.
Dogs and cats. And then if you had both,
Yeah.
it would be called
Yeah.
pets.
Generally, that was Suzanne's game. So that's what she played when she went on, because we didn't really have consoles back then. It was kind of like we just went on Dad's PC.
That it's weird. I had that as well, where went from having a console like a Master System and a Mega Drive. Then something happened where I don't know whether I got bored or didn't have a PlayStation for a while, but it was go on the PC. So I spent many years on there, and it was just like the family PC at that time.
Yeah, I think that's just a great leap in like variety and different sorts of games. We didn't have like The Sims and things like that weren't really a thing, and then The Sims come along and all these other different
the Sims
sort of PC-based
fucking
games.
Massive.
Yeah, I played that quite a lot as well.
Yeah.
And then obviously Counter-Strike come along a few years later. But I think generally speaking, definitely multiplayer, and I can make that open as necessary and make cuts where required, I think, basically. And then alongside that, I like to have sort of a bigger game, like a solo bigger game, and then a little pick up and play shitter, I think is the way that I would put it. Like you don't have to be like super invested in it to get the most out of it. It's just kind of there just to amuse you. If you don't really fancy some multiplayer, your mates ain't around. If you just want to play a bit of something, then that's there. So that's kind of the rule that I operate. Multiplayer, open as needs be, big old single player, and then sub shitter. What's going on out there?
Just a delivery. Just keeping an eye on it, that's all.
Just making
He
sure.
pulled up in a black van. I was like, this looks ominous.
Neighbourhood watch.
Yeah, and he's gone to the wrong house. He's put that through next doors when it should be coming through here. So
That's a problem that you'll have to go
I'll get that later, which is annoying.
And another, on a real tangent, I ordered a like boot protector.
He's driven off. He hasn't corrected it. I thought sometimes they look and then he hasn't. He's just plonked that through.
Yeah, I ordered a boot protector online the other week, and you know when you sometimes order these things, if it's not off Amazon, generally you don't select next day delivered.
He's got the notification. He says that's come through.
Well, he's wrong. He's blown that. You knew what it was. You're expecting it, and you're keeping an eye on him to knock on that door, and then he goes, "Yeah, not doing it."
Well, after they blew my Xbox Series X on release day, you know, I have to keep an eye on Amazon now. I was so angry that day. The start of next gen delayed. Fucking arseholes. Anyway.
It's the way it can go. In a different, they have a problem around here dealing with numbers and letters on houses.
They have a problem dealing with numbers down this road. They can't seem to correlate that there's...
Basically, I always get knocked. There's next to mine, there's like an A and a B. Right, and it's really simple. Right. It's an established system, right? You got a number,
it's daft,
and then a number
though,
and a letter.
Whoever didn't,
it is,
and that was just short term. Let's just figure this out quickly. They didn't think about the long term ramifications of that. If they just said, "Look, there's a reset. We'll reset now, so in 10 years, no one has to bother with this," and they just couldn't be bothered.
What do you mean?
Well, they could have renumbered all the houses and said, "Right,
you're
not 1A, you're 1. You're now 3." You're not 1B, and then everyone else would have had to do it. And it's like, look, this is a community, it's a neighbourhood. We're going to do this, and then after that, 10 years, one generation, the whole that epidemic would have been solved. But it couldn't be bothered.
I don't like this A, B, and C and stuff, but anyway. And weirdly, the one that's next to mine, you'd expect it to go number, and then A, and then B. It doesn't. It goes number, B, A. What are we doing? But anyway. Basically, they always knock on my door going, B? No, mate. Does it say that on there? And I have to get pissy with them now and go, why can you not? This is literally your job. Part of your job is reading where these go. Most of them are fine, to be fair. But yeah, I've got one random guy that knocked on me, and I literally walked out of my house and pointed, it's literally 2 foot away, to the number of the letter on next door, and he went, "Thanks, mate." I was like, do your job for you, shall I? Why don't you give me the parcel and I'll do that?
Well, sometimes you got to, wouldn't you?
But anyway, what I was going to say was I ordered something quite large, and I was expecting it to be delivered like in a couple of days when I was at home, and it wasn't. It was delivered the next day when I was in London.
Yeah, classic.
And then it comes around, and the geezers called me saying, "You're not in?" I was like, "Nah." I was like, "Leave it with one of the neighbours, they'll be all right." And I come home and picked it up, and I was like, "Good Lord!" I was like, "I am sorry." It was huge, but anyway. So yeah.
Sometimes they chuck stuff over the fence. I've seen that happen.
I'd have been quite happy for him to do that if that's what he. But anyway, neighbours got troubled, so got to be useful for something.
That's what they're there for, aren't they?
So back to games.
Back to this gaming play. Yeah, it's a tricky one for me because I've gone through many different phases throughout the gaming life. I mean, back in the day, there was a chance. It was a time when you couldn't really afford to buy new games. So you would have like one game for like 3 months, so you wouldn't have a choice. Yeah, it would be just play one. Then I got the Amiga 500. It came with about 50 floppy disks, probably more. And at that point, you're inundated with it. So it was never really. It was just try everything once and then go through. I've normally go to cannon fodder and whatnot. But more recently, even on with this Series X and this PS5 and this Switch, I have tried the one platform approach, having a one game on each. But because I generally play single player games mostly, that's where I get snarled up because then neither of them or none of them get the right attention, and they don't get moved forward. I lose momentum. I forget where I am. Then controller layouts and button mapping becomes an issue because on one game dodge is circle and on the other one it's R1. You're like, well, I now keep getting snarled up with the other one. So for my own sanity, I've reduced the amount that I do. So what I tend to try and do now, if possible, is one main game. That's it. Then on the side, if there's a co-op game or a multiplayer game that I'm doing, so say The Division or say Outriders, that can also come alongside it. That's fine. Because I know that they're only ever going to be like once or twice a week. Yeah. Because the scheduling around that is dependent on others. So it's not in my hands, is it? If I sat there when I'm going to play...
I'll come along 5 minutes before and say, I've got a couple of hours, should I play this?
Well, I've got time for that. And so if I was to dedicate that as the main game, I'd be sitting there thumb up arse for most of the week. So it wouldn't work. Yeah. So that's the other consideration. And then I want to get in the habit of having just one stream game, which is just once or twice a week, maybe tops, that I just go on and do. And something completely random, like a sim type game, where I don't enjoy playing action games on stream. I played that fucking Shadow of Mordor on stream for a while. It done my fucking head in.
It's hard. I don't know. I haven't done a lot of streaming. All you can hear is this. Yeah.
Then my tongue's coming out going. People don't want to see that.
There's a lot going on. And I think it is tricky as well because you can't. It's not like back in the day when it was just people watching you play a game, like years ago. Now there's an expectation around engagement and dealing with questions and backseat gaming and all that sort of stuff that you have to contend with on there.
Why'd you do that?
Well, if you go down here, there's a secret bit. Why did you get that? Like, if you do this, there's another story arc. Oh, shut up.
Get out of it. You go play it.
Yeah. It's tricky to do that. But I think I completely agree with you on the one main game. Because I think for a little while, it's when I picked up Hogwarts Legacy and I think I still had God of War Ragnarok on the go. And I think I also had another single player on the go. I can't remember what it was, but I was a bit like, it might have been Arceus or something like that. Yeah. I was just like, I can't cope with this. And that was across 3 different platforms as well. Like I was dealing with Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, and I was like, I'm hating this. Because it's like, which one do you play?
Yeah, that's the trouble, isn't it?
And then you go, if you don't play one for a little while, like I didn't, like Arceus, it gets dropped.
Yeah.
And it's not really what you want to happen. You just lose that momentum.
We go back to this plate analogy. That's sort of the stake. Like, you don't want 3 steaks on your plate, do you? You want sides and I don't think you want greens. I don't know who's asking for that. I just want some fries and pot of gravy, peppercorn.
Yeah, a little bit of some onion rings.
Yeah, I'll eat them, but I don't... not a fan.
A couple of
That's
little
the greed. I will eat
wings.
them. I don't even like them, but I will eat them, these onion rings.
I love onion rings.
Some cunt put a tomato on my steak once. I'm like, get that off.
garnish.
No. Doesn't say it on the fucking menus. They don't put it on there.
Yeah, you wouldn't have 3 different steaks. You wouldn't go, give me a sirloin, a rump, and a fillet.
I mean, I would.
It'd be too much.
But you couldn't enjoy it properly, no.
No, you'd feel compelled to eat it all, and then you'd go, this doesn't, it'd muddle the taste. And yeah, they've got to be cooked differently as well. Different sauces. Yeah, it's just, I like the steak analogy. I think that works.
It could be anything, can't it? It could just be an order. You normally order one main, a few sides, and that's how it's always been.
And a drink.
Yeah, and a drink. A little bit of a refreshener. But I remember when I was playing Persona 5 Royal, which just seemed like it's taken up most of this year, I got Resident Evil 4 halfway through playing that, and that was an absolute conundrum. I could not, to your point, I could not figure out what to play, when to play. And in the end, everything came to a grinding halt. Both of them suffered. Neither of them benefited from that particular experiment. Because at that time, I was thinking, well, the Persona, I can sort of chip away at that, just going for an hour here or there, and then Resident Evil 4 can be the mainline game. But it never materialised like that. I just couldn't. I couldn't compartmentalise the two, and I was just always forever thinking, oh. So in the end, I was like, right, let's put Persona 5 down for 5 days straight and just hammer on Resident Evil 4. Get it out the way, which is not a good headspace to be in when you want games out the way and they keep pulling the rug out from under you, like they do. You sort of start blaming the game, but I've told people before it's not. It's you trying to get things off plates. And after that, I was like, well, if I clearly can't do that, that's clearly not in my means. And what it does mean, it means I've got to be very disciplined. So when the likes of Star Wars came out and I was still playing Persona, I had to just ignore it. Zelda, ignore it. All these other games that were sort of coming out that I would have been sniffing at had to be just ignored. And
I think that is one thing that I've definitely got better at over the years. And there is always going to be exceptions. Like when GTA 6 comes out, I don't give a shit what I'm playing, whatever it is.
That's a week off work job, isn't it? Stars Align.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I think there are always exceptions. But I think generally speaking, like I will wait these days until there's like I want to play it. I mean, it's like I've still got Pokemon sitting there, not Arceus, the other one that I got for my birthday in April, when it hasn't even.
I don't ask for games anymore for birthdays or Christmases for that exact reason. I don't want stuff given to me that I feel compelled to play, so I ask for the voucher now.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's no. I'm not under any pressure.
How ungrateful is that? Someone buys me a game, I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, I've got to play it now.
I know what you mean, but it's kind of like, so they'll go, oh, do you like your new game? And you go, I haven't even put it in or whatever. And they're like, well, why not? You know, no, I do want to play it, but there's got to be a right time. And then you've got to send them to this podcast to explain the plate analogy.
Are we overcomplicating our gaming lives here?
I don't do it, I don't think, consciously.
No.
I'm just sort of like, over the years, you know, when you're, it makes you sound old, but when you're younger and you've got more free time, you ain't got kids, you ain't got dogs, you ain't got jobs like that require you to think necessarily, or you know, life's a bit simpler, isn't it? 10 years ago, you know, you've got more time to allot to these things, and I think as you do get a bit older, you have to be like, right, okay, I need the time that have got, I need to dedicate to these things, and not. And you do it generally in other areas of life as well. You go, right, there's a time and a place for doing this that I know I've learned to. You learn what the best way is to do it. I think that's basically the motto of it. You know, and I used to have, you know, think about all the multiplayer stuff that we used to just randomly play. Like it'd be like GTA Online, or like it could just be anything. It was just chaos, like week to the next. We used to have Sunday morning sessions, which. Could work. I think that was a good system, but it just goes to show you, like, there was all these different things.
Conan.
Oh, God.
Playing that for weeks on end, that absolute
ball shaker.
Played that. That's what we played Diablo 3. Played through that on Sunday morning sessions.
Yeah.
So the dedicated.
And that was back in the day when there was some heavy drinking going on. And there was a couple of times when me and Paper would be sitting there and we're going to have to call Joe. We're going to have to get him up because and you'd be like, no. Or you'd be like, yeah.
You have to get on and just suffer through it on a Sunday morning.
It was so early as well. It was 8 o'clock.
Yeah, it
on
was.
a Sunday morning. Why are we doing that to ourselves? I mean, it was
Can't
good
remember what it
because
was
everyone's
now.
about.
Yeah,
but
it worked, didn't it? People were like, oh, I'm always free at that time. It didn't seem
none
like
of us had any other commitments, by the way.
No.
Like that was before I had a child.
Yeah.
Like it's just like, for some reason, I think we all just acknowledge we're generally early risers. We're like, let's just get up and play a couple of hours that before the day kicks off.
Then you got the rest
which
of the day
makes
to
sense
yourself.
in principle.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you're going out on the piss, it don't help.
No.
But yeah, I think I've just sort of, as I've got older, just started going, how do I want to play games and how do I get the most out of them? And I think games now are much more involved. I think that's probably fair to say as well.
Who knows? There might be a topic about game length in the near future for people to chew on. But yeah, they are more complex and they are generally longer, which means more time dedicated. And then also my obsession with finishing said game has basically made this, it has to be hyper focused where possible. Because I kind of just want to. I'd rather play less games, but more of fuller experience. Really going into the layers of it, rather than just barreling through so many games of the past. Because I was like, I'll get on to the next one. I'll just skip through this. I'll skip through that, and I'll get to the credits and be like, yeah, done. That was a great experience to be done.
Next.
Yeah, quick, done, tick, and then you're on to the next one. It's like a conveyor belt of entertainment. And really, I mean, there's other games definitely, but it was like Red Dead Redemption 2, where I really just took my time, just slowed that game. And that game is a slow-paced game anyway, and that's kind of one of the things I like it. But then why I like it, and that that's when I've really I didn't do everything in that because again, that's just insane. There's so many challenges and skinning
ridiculous.
things.
Yeah.
But story-wise, I did all the quests and rolled around in my. I remember saying to people, I just go out in the wilderness for 3 days to hunt something and then come back. I wouldn't even be doing a mission, and that was a good 3 hours worth of life wasted. But I was just enjoying being in that world, and it felt like I got the absolute most out of that. So I'd rather do that with more games now. Yeah, and that does subject me to bloat and other nefarious things that games have these days. You've got those Assassin's Creed Valhalla types lurking there that really. That's one thing I definitely didn't do everything in. No. So I will make the decision sometimes that this doesn't warrant it, and we'll just get through it and do the. If
the game rewards you for getting into the detail and really taking your time and savouring the game, then I think it's worthwhile. But you do just make decisions on the fly, don't you? As you go, how much effort do I want to put into this, and do I feel appropriately rewarded? Yeah. Like, are these side quests just goose chases for unnecessary rewards? Like, is it going to add to the story? Is it going to enrich the story? Is there side information, rich lore that you can get? Like, you just make all those choices, didn't you? And you can pretty much come to a conclusion of whether it's just going to be crap or not. But yeah, I think to your point, it is just about making sure that nowadays, because these games are so much deeper, I think taking the time to enjoy that, I think, is important.
Yeah, no, that definitely plays into what I do. I just think I want to get through this and try not to rush to the next thing.
Sometimes you still do it.
Oh yeah, of course.
I'm just getting sick of this. Like, you might just be in a mood where you're just like, I'm playing this because it's what's on the plate, but I don't really fancy this steak, so I'm just going to eat it because I'm hungry.
Yeah, that happens most dinners that I get served up, so I can definitely relate to that. Anyway, how many games do you have on your plate? Let us know. Do you have to come up with complex processes like us two to just get through life?
I don't think people do. I think people play what they want to.
Yeah.
Which ain't a bad little system.
Well,
right?
no, I mean, especially with like Game Pass, or the PlayStation Plus Essential Collection, you've got literally 100 games you could play. Yeah. Like, that's why I always struggle with the value of both of those things. So I'm like, I don't want to just play a bit of this and a bit of that and go and have a buffet. So
yeah, I mean, I do. So yeah. I said to you the other week, I downloaded Need for Speed. There's a new Need for Speed on it. Played a couple of hours. Went, don't like this. Deleted. Done. But I think it gives you the chance to do that without buying something and then having to trade it or whatever it is. And that's the thing that I like about Game Pass is that I go, oh,
Tinykin.
that little try. Random shit you'd never even come across before gets played. Give me that time back.
Well, that's always the balance, isn't it? How much time's getting flushed and versus money. But no, that's definitely a me thing. The not getting the most out of these subscription services because I just don't play that way. I just
I can understand it. Like I wish I did have this sometimes. Like even when I was playing Star Wars, I was a bit like I wanted to, but I was just like I'm just not loving it in the way that I thought I would. So I just cut it. I am quite happy to do stuff like that if necessary. Yeah. But it's the Biff mentality.
Yeah, and he can't be trusted. We know about that. So less said about him, the better. Next topic, and the final one, we're going to do two, because that's gone longer than anticipated anyway. But
always does.
That's what happens. Is it... Hey, how did I write this one? I can't remember what I wrote down, because what I've actually got here is different, I think, than what I sent you. So...
What do you do when you get stuck in a game?
Oh, yeah. Is it cheating?
Is it cheating if you refer to a guide?
Yes. Have we done this? I'm sure we have. Do we miss just old school cheats, which would get you past, difficult areas that nowadays they're hidden away? Is it a failure of the game if guides are being wheeled out on a regular basis just to get the nuts and bolts of it? There's many different directions where this can go, but I mean, in the multiplayer space, I'm just thinking out loud now. Those raids, that weren't getting worked out without guides. Dave went and read out what to do and told us exactly what to do, and we just executed on the plan, which in itself was difficult because the mechanics were there, but that's just one example I always pluck out as like, we didn't earn that. We didn't figure that out ourselves or anything like that.
No,
we went and jumped online and it saved us. Yeah. I mean, some of the complexities of that, you just never work out, I don't think.
The thing is, though, it's like, what do you class as cheating? So say I'll go go back to Warzone, right? I haven't played it, fucking God, maybe since like January or February or something ridiculous. Like, I haven't played it for months. I don't know what the updates are and the metas is for the guns. And someone says to me, use this loadout.
Yep.
And gives me the loadout and I set that up. And is that cheating? Because someone's told me what to use, and that's basically what Dave's doing. Yeah. I mean, he's giving the solution to the puzzle, basically. We just got to execute. So if it was easy to execute, where's the challenge? I think that's what you have to go back to. So
we want the challenge. Because people claim they want it, and then there's controllers going across the room. So do they want it?
This is the question. So using Warzone as an example, the challenge is still in me winning it and with my own skill. Like, the gun is 2, 3, 4, 5%, but 95% of it is how I play, my play style, how good I am, and all those kind of different things come into it. So I would say that's not cheating.
Yeah.
The raids, where's the difficulty? I mean, arguably figuring out the fucking puzzle's hard enough.
Well, I don't know how people are.
I don't. We would have never done that if it weren't for Dave and his guiding hand, I think. Yeah. But like, there's still a significant challenge in doing the raid, even knowing how to do it. Like, executing that without one of us fucks blowing it is a challenge. So I don't think I think cheating is gaining an unfair advantage.
Yes.
Isn't it? So that's what it boils down to. So are we gaining an unfair advantage in the raids by knowing what to do? No, because it's fucking hard enough even when you know what to do, let alone when you don't.
Yeah. We're not going like God mode on like putting some code in that just we still have to, the main part of the game still needs to be played. Yeah.
Yeah. And then if you go back to the old days in GTA 4, I don't even know if they had them in GTA 5, where you spawn a fucking tank or invincible and all that sort of shit.
I've got a feeling that you can almost draw a line that connects the introduction and adoption of achievements and trophies from the 360 and PS3 era and cheats being slowly phased out, because if you allow people free reign of cheats, then a lot of those achievements potentially could be made very, very easy for people to do. Now, I know there were some games that did this. They would offer cheat codes and make things easier, but the way they balanced it was that the achievements wouldn't pop if you had one of these things activated. But nowadays, you just don't see...
No.
On console games, I must say, because I think in PC, people mod shit in and you can sometimes access the console. I always remember playing Quake and just going to the little... console, you can't remember what button it was, and putting God in, and then you would be invincible. Just playing through the game. That's an example when I would definitely use a cheat, and it wasn't a guide in this case, but we just wanted to get through the game because it was so hard for us when we were younger. But nowadays, you just don't seem to have those type of cheats available to you.
And going back to Warzone, hacking and cheating in that was a real issue. I mean, there are people that do it still, but trying to pull this back to a guide. Now, I don't know what you would do, but I play a lot of puzzle games. So
I was going to mention puzzle games specifically, so I'm interested to see where this goes.
So what was I playing the other day?
Superland.
I mean, we'll get on to Superland. When the past... It's a game with gold at the minute. When the past was here,
shutting that down, mate. It's gone. It's a dead service now.
Well, it's still there at the minute. But anyway, so it's like when the past was here, or something like that. But basically, that's a point and click puzzle game,
right? And
you have to do things and find things in a certain order. It's not hugely challenging, but there was one part on there where I was like, this is just annoying. I was like, sometimes I'd just like to. Where's this one bit that I'm looking for, like to kick me off into the so that it sort of like starts the chain of me finding stuff again.
Yeah.
And so on that one, I went on to get a guide online, and I was like, look, where is this fucking bit that I'm missing? And then I found that and got it, and I was like, then I just closed the guide.
How easy was the solution in the end? Was you like, oh, I wish I hadn't looked at that, or was you like, I never would have got that in a month of Sundays?
I never got that. No. And it was the same with Superland, right? Like Superland, it was made by like one guy, I think, one random dude. And like normally when you play these games, you get to learn like how they do things and the sort of style of the game, so you know where certain things are going to be hidden and the expectation and stuff.
Yeah.
With him, nah. Honestly, there was no rhyme or reason. Like it'd just be random sometimes. I could not do that game without. I'll rephrase it. If I'd have spent days on end going through this game, I'm sure I could have done it. But it didn't deserve it. But I wanted to complete the game, right? So I think the Superland, I did use a guide to complete, and I was okay with that. But generally speaking, I won't use guides, and I don't use walkthroughs. I don't use achievement guides.
No.
I will unless I'm particularly stuck. I won't do things, and that has to be said, right? I don't play hugely challenging games either. So, like, if I was playing a game that had a really hard boss on it, and I was just like, I need the strat, I might be tempted to get the strat to do the boss again, because I still think the execution's a difficult part.
Well, that's kind of how From Software games in the community live, is like strats and builds and find this weapon here, upgrade this weapon to give the players the opportunity to beat the bosses, which is kind of on the line for me. And the thing about it's different actually with like Elden Ring in particular. The thing that annoyed me was that without a guide, which is the way I played it, I got through it, but the amount of stuff I missed, the amount of stuff that was lurking, it just didn't. It's almost like they made it so obtuse for certain outcomes that they wanted the community to write a guide for it, and that's the only way he was ever going to be able to do it. Like I read up afterwards, and I was like, you just never would do that naturally. I don't know how anyone's figured this out. They sort of made it so difficult that if you had no access to a guide or the internet, you'd get 1% of people, less than that, would ever figure out how to do X in that game.
Yeah.
And that sort of design annoys me a little bit because why? Why's it got to be like that? Oh, the community are solving it. It's like I don't know. The community aren't solving it. About 8 people in the community solved it once. Yeah, they can wear that badge and say we solved it. They can go, yeah, that was us. 99.9% of everyone else just read it and went, oh, there it is. Went and found it and put in the inputs, and then that was it.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the point in that?
Yeah, it does detract a little bit from, like, you want it to be. I don't know. There's a fine line, isn't there, between, like, it's like when you pop a rare achievement, like, and it goes, you're only 3.7%.
Yeah,
I've got this, and you go,
cool.
I'm the daddy. Like,
unless you looked it up online and just found it that way.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's that. I mean, arguably, it's always going to be lower than what they say because you will get people that have gone through achievement guides and got it. So it's always a case of you're one of a small percentage. But I like that. I find that piece like satisfying, but I wouldn't find it satisfying if I'd have got it for a guide.
But you have done a guide for achievements. You must have done.
No.
No?
all the achievements other than I don't think I've ever like grinded like ground achievements. No. Yeah, I don't like that.
Have you ever got to like 98% completion of a game and got like 2 achievements? I can't figure out what these are, and they're like secret ones or something like that.
Nah.
No, just bin it. You walk away if there's one left.
I think there's only one game that I've ever 100%ed.
Yeah.
Like, intentionally 100%ed, and that is Rocket League.
Right.
Weirdly.
Well,
that's the only game. I mean, I'm sure I have like gone through some of these shitter games where you get 100 G just for completing a chapter or whatever.
Yeah.
And you 100% it, but I don't think there's any other game that I can think of specifically that I've I don't know what the fucking word is. It's really annoying me. Grinded is just a childish way. The word is ground, but it doesn't sound right. I've ground achievements.
I put the effort in to grind the game. It's longer, but it gets around the issue.
You circumnavigate that problem that I've made myself.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, the answer is no. I haven't.
Interesting.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like,
no, because I absolutely. This is the other side of the argument. I was sitting there berating games for putting guide-worthy quests and stuff in and making it obtuse. When it comes to achievements, I've absolutely sat there and gone, "Oh, I'm missing 4 of them. How do I get them? Oh, there it is. Followed it. Yeah. Watched the video nowadays. You put the video on. It's like, oh, here's the hidden raven for God of War. And you're like, oh, there it is. Ting. Done. Now, I will say, for God of War Ragnarok, I didn't use a guide at all and got the platinum. So that was like a proud moment. That felt like an achievement. But because every time, and the reason why I did it that way is because every time I've looked up how to just get a trophy or get an achievement, it pops and I'm like, that feels a bit empty. I like this satisfaction of them just naturally getting to the end of the game and then getting, the platinum or whatever it is at the end of it. So the guides for achievements are something I do dabble into, but every time I've done it for a game, so I'm stuck at a certain point, or it's when I'm stuck. It's like a puzzle in a game that doesn't normally have puzzles, for example.
Yeah.
And then for some reason it's really hard, and I think, what are we doing here? I will often, I'll bang my head against a brick wall nowadays rather than submit to it, because without fail, every time I've looked up the solution, I look at the solution and think, I knew that in a way. I'd have got that, I think, and then just riddled with guilt and unsatisfaction.
It's too easy, though. It's literally all here.
I know. Like, it's so tempting.
No, like the answers are there. The
alternative was back in the day, you couldn't figure it out. Unless someone on the fucking playground knew, that was it. Yeah. That was the end of that game for you. You weren't going any further.
Yeah. And but it is difficult to resist the temptation to just Google it.
Yeah, because it will save you so much time.
It's all out there. It's all out there. Yeah. But yeah, generally speaking, I won't do it. But I can't think of any specific circumstances at the moment where I'm like, I have sold my soul to the devil. Basically, I've gone to get. But I don't, as I said before, I don't play like an Elden Ring. I don't play like these ridiculously obtuse, challenging games generally. So I don't usually have the need to.
Here's one that I did not recently. This is a while ago, back when it first released, like Valhalla. there's like a quest line in that we have to go and collect, I think, fragmented artifact pieces or something. And I got them all but one, didn't I? Found them all but one. And I couldn't find the last one. So I went and looked where it was and found it and, got it. And I felt a bit dirty just doing that. But then in my head, I was like, would I have gone all the way back to wherever I was starting the game, which is where it ended up being, to go and find stuff like that. But the reason I wanted to do it was because it felt like that was an important part of the story, potentially sort of locked away behind this other quest line. And the alternative would have been just to not find it and never get the full story. And I thought, I've put 120 hours into this.
Yeah.
I deserve to see it all at this stage. When it comes to like the narrative, turns out it wasn't that interesting, and I was annoyed at the outcome. So actually, it wasn't worth it. But
yeah, that's the moral of the story of Valhalla. That is.
Yeah,
turns out it wasn't that interesting.
No, once you get to the end of that, you think, what are we doing here? Puzzle games, though, I will say, if I'm going to play a puzzle game, my view is I'm going to sit there and work it out, or I ain't going to play it. Because that's the game, isn't it? That is the game. The puzzle is the game. If I can't suss it out, then I'm going to have to just sit here until I do suss it out and not look it up. Because
I'll tell you one that we did recently, and I'm pretty sure I can't remember. We played A Way Out, didn't we? Like when it first come out.
Yeah.
And there's a room on there where you're stuck. It's like in a workshop, and you just get stuck in there for ages. And I played it again recently with Pee Wee, and I remember we got stuck in it again. And I was like, I don't know. Right. So I was like, I need to Google this because we're going to be like, honestly, we're in this room for about 45 minutes.
It's different when you've got someone else, because you're leading Pee Wee through that, probably showing him the game. You feel accountable for the
I didn't remember.
Game. And then,
I promise you.
And then you're sitting there thumb up arse going, I don't know what to do here, Pee Wee. So you're under pressure to get through that blockade.
I said to you, I was like, I like, again, it's not a long game. I think it's about 6 hours or something. Like, it's really, really short. But yeah, we were sitting on that, and I was just like, we felt like we'd done everything, and I was like, there's nothing more that we can do here.
No.
And I Googled it, and it turned out that the fucking game had jibbed.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. Sometimes it's like you get caught out like that, and we had to reload the checkpoint and come back in and did what we did literally immediately in that room.
That is a good
point.
But
I think that might have happened to us as well when we played that. I think there's a jibby bit in that level where...
That has happened to me in other games as well, like with the quest... just doesn't load an NPC, or and you just think, what am I doing wrong here? And you find out someone's fallen through the world and you can't get to them. You're like, oh, for fuck's sake, I've got to reload. So you're right. I mean, it's a dangerous territory because you don't know whether it's a legit stump, you've been stumped, or whether the game's shit the bed.
Yeah, but it's literally, we scoured. So before I did it, we scoured the whole... Pretty much, I don't think there's like anything else we could interact with. Like we spent ages, scoured that room. We were like, look, there's nothing else we can interact with here. Like, what's happened? Like we thought what we needed to do was speak to this guy and distract him, and someone else take like what we needed to take. And we were like, there's no other way that we can do this. Like we know what we need. Like there's nothing else we can do. So we reloaded it, and literally immediately went and done it. And it worked. We were like.
Incredible, because that game's been out a while. You'd think that sort of bug would have been squashed by now.
Yeah,
but
it hasn't. No. Yeah, so there you go. So there is some times when you have to do it because otherwise you're just going to send yourself... I mean, the only other thing that you could do is exit that game.
Well, that's kind of what I've learned over the time. Rather than pushing through a particular area just to get past the area for my own sanity... I do find that this could be if I'm in a challenging boss as well, not necessarily I'm stumped, but I think if I just turn this off and come back another day, I'm going to be in a better place. And so if I do get stuck nowadays, I'm more inclined to do that rather than bang head against brick wall and get frustrated. Because also that solves, in most cases, reloading the checkpoint will resolve, a bug or something, usually. So you'll come back and hopefully retrace your steps and think, where was I? And you think, oh, it worked that time. So but it's different again. If you've sat down and said, we're going to play this for a few hours, Pee Wee, and that's 15 minutes into the play session, you're like, well, we can't just quit here. That'd be a real waste of everyone's time.
It wasn't that long, actually. We played it in a couple of sit-ins. But yeah, we weren't that long into the save, and it's like, right. It's reasonably far in.
Yeah.
And you know how the game works, and you kind of go, right, I know what it's asking me to do here.
You get get an idea, don't you?
It says no. But yeah, I think there are some ways around it, but sometimes you just have to go, look. I mean, I've already played it anyway, so it's like, no love lost there.
No.
Pete don't really give a shit, so it's like all good. But some games, when we played It Takes Two, like no guide was ever sought throughout that. It's like we want to figure those puzzles out yourself, because as you say, you take away a large proportion of what makes the game interesting and satisfying.
Especially that one, because it's cooperative, isn't it? You normally got to get someone to do one thing whilst you're doing another thing, and then time it together. That's the game, isn't it? It's built on that cooperation. I want to replay that game. Actually, I enjoyed that.
I'd like to replay it. Yeah, it was really good. I bloody loved it. As you say, I think it's one of those, especially if you've been away for it for a while, you forget the puzzles and you can just play it again almost fresh to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was one of the best co-op games, I think, of that style that I've probably ever played.
Wow.
But yeah, like a game like that, no guide would ever be sought. It's a case of figure it out between yous.
Yeah, that's the way it should be sometimes. Well,
just last question on that before you cut. Would it annoy you if there was a difficult puzzle, and then say we're doing it together, I come along and go, I think this is the way to do it. And then I solve it, and you go,
"No, not
fucking hell."
No, I no, because I mean, how arrogant do you have to be to get annoyed by that? When I play co-op games, I'm very much like I'm happy just to do nothing thought-wise and just follow. But I'm also equally happy to take the lead as well, or just split the duties. But no, I get what you're saying. That would, and some people that would annoy because they feel like it's some sort of competition, and It Takes Two does have little mini games.
It's not even in competition. It's just like, I mean, I guess when you play a co-op game,
how's that dopey Pratt solve that? And I'm sitting here thumb up arse. Yeah, I can see it. I can see that happening for certain individuals.
It's probably been said before. Yeah, probably to me at some point.
Well, it's normally when there's failings, isn't there? That's when the spite comes out of people and myself.
The frustration boils over
when we die and stuff, and it's never my fault. It's clearly not possible for it to be my fault. Those shields didn't go up in time, did they? That I'm not in control of. For fuck's sake! Obvious those shields had to go up, wasn't it? We'll get back into that division because we've got that DLC.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, I was actually going to try and sort that out with you at some point because it's lurking on the menu.
We'll get it.
Those fucking shields, dearie me.
Right. Well, that went about as well as I thought it could have gone. It went longer than I thought it would be, but the sort of waffling was there, which was what was required.
Well, we wasted 10 minutes on pizza.
Yeah.
We discussed parcel deliveries, various other things as well. So it's a real bonus bumper episode. Not
sure we resolved anything with either of the questions, but I don't think that's the intention.
There's no answer, is there? It's
answer.
Just discussing it. It's just be interested to see whether people have got similar thought processes to me and you.
Yeah.
So I think we generally align. Like, there's some differences in terms of that I'll try stuff and chuck stuff away, and you won't. But I think broadly, we've got a similar ethos on what can be on the plates and stuff.
That's the way to do it. Right, let's shut it down. I don't know what's next. I haven't thought about it. So, as I like to say, you know more than I do. But we'll see you on the other side. Here we are then, back with some gaming impressions here to close out this particular episode of Idle Game Chat. You got the governors of gaming here. You may have had us earlier. We would have had different clothes on. My hair would have grown. I'm almost certain of that. My hair will have grown. I won't have this skin down the side and back. I've got a ponytail at the moment. That might not even be there. Yeah. Well, there is questions about whether he thinks he's Ragnar, this one sitting here. He's been watching too much Vikings, but we'll get past that. But yeah, we're here to close out this week's episode. We've got some impressions to share with you. And let's get on to some Marvel toot.
Marvel toot? We're talking about Avengers.
Usually when we mention Marvel toot with Adkins, he's playing the latest DLC from Avengers and He's self-harming himself doing that. But fortunately, what I hope, in my opinion, my humble opinion, we have a better, more well-suited game to at least my taste and probably yours.
Yeah.
In Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Game Pass Extraordinaire, and also on PlayStation Plus Extra Tier and above.
To my fucking disappointment after paying full whack for this.
That
game.
is a stinker, in it.
Hold on, let me
It-
just
It would have been close.
channel in to my. No, I write everything down because I'm such a weirdo. I paid exactly £38.12 for
Okay.
this.
To own it.
So
This will roll off the services one day, and then everyone won't be able to replay it. If you ever want to replay it, and to be fair, this is a game where actually replaying it will yield potentially some different. I don't mean the story will change, but there's a lot of narrative in this game. There's a lot of choices that you can make, and you could in theory have a different playthrough, because the way I described it was it's kind of like Mass Effect Light, but Telltale on steroids, just because of fidelity and graphics. And so, what do you think? Let's start there. What do you think of that wild comment of mine? Mass Effect Light, but Telltale on steroids is.
I would largely agree. Yes.
Case closed.
Yeah,
Bye.
Case closed. Tata, Silver. No. Yeah, I'd largely agree. I don't know what I was expecting going into it in terms of conversations, like how they would play out and how the choices would be had. Because it was it the team that done Deus Ex that done this?
Yes, I believe so. I'll look it up.
It was. So you didn't have any. You had options there, I suppose, in some conversation, didn't you?
Well, yeah, Deus Ex was more about the what's the name, wasn't it? Like you had the conversational stuff, but in gameplay, there's a lot of ways to approach. 'Cause it's one of those immersive sim.
Yeah, it's more
types.
action spoke louder than words in that game, whereas this is almost the complete opposite.
Yeah.
You choose what you say and how you react to certain people, and very much like the Telltale games, you do have actions on those consequences in regards to characters sort of changing how they speak to you, and you can piss characters off in this, which is quite fun.
Yeah.
You can have like a bit of a sort of tiff throughout the game with certain characters
because they remember.
But like I said, I don't think there is any. Like it's not one of these games where you can have like 10 different endings or anything like that.
No,
certainly not a dark anthology game. You can't kill off every single member of the Guardians, which would be fucking brilliant if you could. That would be a real crazy one. But cards on the table, when this game was coming out, I was not interested. I was interested because I loved the Guardians franchise. I'm a big fan of the films, the characters. I had one eye on it, but the showing that it did not show very well, did it?
No, they've done that thing where I think we saw. They showed a bit of the gameplay, didn't they, to start with? I had no idea this game was even. It wasn't like one of those things they announced. It was like, we're doing this in 2 years. Came out of nowhere, cold. And I appreciated that we saw the game in that sort of format, because that's how I want to see all the games to be revealed and seen.
It was
but we both sat there and went, that looks rough.
Yeah. I remember we discussed it. It was in I can't remember if it was a State of Play or whatever it was on an Xbox conference. Wherever it got shown, it was in a conference or State of Play that was bombarded with CGI announcement trailers. So to see this being played with gameplay, it was a breath of fresh air. But yeah, what we saw, I was like, "Whoa, that does look ropey.
Yeah,
does not look smooth."
Just you was correct earlier. Eidos Montreal done the last couple of Deus Ex games and Thief. So
that's the one. Right. So going into this, expectations were at a low after the bombastical game of Marvel's Avengers. Then this gets announced sort of yeah, at this event.
It's
and
still
it
got
was
the Avengers stink on it, innit?
It has.
Because
It
anything
reeked.
coming out of Square Enix at this time, regards to developer, so it's Crystal Dynamics that done Avengers, but because
Yeah.
Square Enix have had their fucking hands on it in terms of financing and whatnot, I just thought,
Here we go.
here we go. They've just another stinker coming our way. They're not to be
Exactly,
trusted.
No. So expectations were very low. But yeah, getting into this game, my mind was blown. I
Yes,
fucking loved this game.
Yes.
I loved this game.
there you
And
go.
was
Worth
not-
having as a physical then in the collection.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, I'm quite glad. Well, it was. I think it was like the last. I was finishing it. This is another one of the that suffered from the Adkins lull.
Yeah,
I got halfway through. I must have it on my trophies here.
story based as well.
I got up to no, it's not too bad. Was it, Jen? I thought it was worse than that. I thought it was worse than that. I thought it was longer. So I started it in November
Yep.
and then didn't touch it until so stopped. Yeah, November 4th I stopped and then went back to it the 4th of January. It's only 2 months.
So why have I only picked now to talk to you? I mean, I shouldn't be doing this on air, but why have I? What did I do? Just say, "No, I don't care about it when you finished it."
I don't care
November.
about it. So when did I finish it? I finished it. Yeah, February. I finished it.
My bad. That is a
8th
poor
of February. So,
organisation.
it's on the back burner. I probably didn't tell you that. I should, as soon as I see credits roll, I should just go straight to the WhatsApp and go done, and then we know what's in the
I'll book it in.
Book it in. Anytime you see credits, I want to know exactly what's everything done. But yes, so I was blown away by what I'd played here. I wasn't expecting the trouble. I've always said this with these type of games: when you have a visual representation of these characters, it's hard to see other reiterations.
Where's Chris Pratt?
Exactly that.
Where's
It worked-
Batista?
To be fair,
Where's
superheroes
Bradley? Well, he's a little mole or whatever he is. What is he, a weasel?
Rat.
What do they call him in that? They like to make fun of him, didn't they? He was like called him like,
yeah.
what? I be
I
rat.
think they called him like a rat.
I think they call him
raccoon.
raccoon,
They
yeah.
call him a rat or something like that.
I'm sure.
I remember now.
I'm sure Drax
But-
said something.
That's it.
offensive
Typically,
towards him.
superhero. That's it. Superheroes are typically easier to do other iterations. You know, how many Spider-Mans we've had, we accept that now. How many Batmans we had. So
They all
I
got
should
masks
be more-
on though.
No, exactly that. That's very true. That is very true. So I should be used to it, but because of how good and well received the Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy film was, the MCU film with Chris Pratt, Batista, and the gang, it was hard. Certainly because that's how we perceive the characters now. So if these characters came in and done a completely different iteration, you know, if we had like Star-Lord being like a fucking muscle man that was really hard and completely the
Yeah, he looked like Drax, but Star-Lord.
yeah, exactly that. But Star-Lord.
The Rock was
Yeah,
the character model, and they went, right, get him in.
Exactly.
Batista
It would be
fuming
too-
because better wrestler.
Yeah, he'd be going, fuck's sake, I left WWE to get away
It will
from
set
me,
up
now
a-
follow me here.
It'll set up an angle on WWE. That's how they do it.
Yeah, exactly that.
Meta story of Guardians.
So, with that being said, so Mike, I was a high concern of thinking, like, I'm not going to be able to get these characters out of my head. They're going to have to be exact same. And then even when you do that, you think, well, this guy's just going to do a Chris Pratt impression. You know, we're going to get a fucking Batista impression. And as much as they stayed true to those type of characters, they still done enough to make it their own.
Yes.
I like that. Certainly with Star-Lord, they sort of focused on his sort of. You saw more of his child upbringing, his upbringing, and that he sort of had this relationship with his mother. That they were both into like rock music, and you saw that sort of rock. He was sort of like a bit of like a hair metal type character. It was really but that was just in terms of story. The gameplay in this, I just straight from the beginning, I was getting Last of Us vibes, like as ridiculous as that sounds.
Here we go.
Because the game, it starts off and you're playing as a young Star Lord,
Yeah.
and you was in that bedroom and going around interacting with things,
Yep.
and it felt just straight off. I was like, this just feels like a Last of Us game. This is incredible.
Yeah,
I
you pick
wasn't
things up and he has a
expecting
comment on it. It fleshes out his. Like, you get a real understanding of what Star Lord is at that time, which is a long-haired little punk. But yeah, it's funny you say it. That is, there's a level of there is a level of detail this game that I didn't expect. Most games just don't bother because it's like, we don't need to do that because no one's gonna call it out and praise it. We're just gonna do not the bare minimum, but we're gonna override it. But the level of detail and care that's put into just developing the surroundings and the characters, like you said, and using objects to trigger dialogue, comments that build up who these people are, that give them their own identity. I was not expecting at all.
I wasn't expecting at all, and it done a great job of fleshing out all 5 characters as well.
Yes,
the pacing of the story was so well that it sort of focused. It wasn't just one big event, and this was their story of how they done that event. It was that in the background, but along the way you had these. It was sort of going through bit by bit of each character, and you really got to character build with them. Like you saw what was going on with fucking Drax and his mind, and how his kid and wife had been killed by Thanos, and what sort of fucking that's done to his head. The relationship between fucking Groot and Racket, and then Gamora's story. It was incredible, and this is just the story and the character building. And like you say, there's so much level of detail. You go onto the ship, it plays. It came after it, but it plays very much like Horizon, where you sort of go off and do a mission, and you come back to the base. There's been games that have done that before. I can't think of any at the minute, but
well, Mass Effect's one of those. Like, you come out to the base and you talk to everyone.
Exactly that.
And whilst it's probably not as extensive perhaps as the decisions and the story ramifications for Mass Effect, but the main reason you on that ship is that you go there to interact with the characters and get to know them, and that's what you do onto what the fucking ship's called. I can't remember what it's called now. I know one of the planets is called Nowhere, but
that's it. Yeah,
Star-Lord's ship. But that's and some people will skip over that, but I'll get to the next mission.
Yeah.
And you can.
Yeah.
But I was wandering around, chatting to everyone, closing that fucking fridge.
Yeah, I spent all game doing that. There was conversations linked to it which were fucking brilliant.
I know.
I was waiting for some sort of fucking trophy to pop, or some sort of something to happen at the end where he actually closes it or something.
Stay shut.
It's fucking genius. But there is so much lore. There's you put there's like a radio on the fucking ship. You put that on, and he will react to the songs that come on. That's another thing in this game. The soundtrack in this game is fucking incredible. For someone who's into
the Milano
sort of music. That's it.
That's
the
Milano.
Ship.
There we go. We got there. But I was gonna nudge you about the soundtrack, but I knew you'd get there.
Yeah.
Like
here's
the only criticism I have. It's not of the soundtrack itself. The soundtrack is fucking amazing. It's a streamer's nightmare because they'll get fucking flagged for every song. Yeah. My only small gripe, and this is one of the things I just thought was a bit strange, was that they only play the licensed music in combat when you do those timeout things.
Yeah.
And do the buff thing. And I didn't start using that until the back half of the game because I thought it was quite precious.
Really?
And then when I found out it would play the licensed soundtrack in battle, I was like, I have to do this every time now. I would have just preferred, I don't know, maybe it cheapens it a little bit, but every time you're in combat, it would play, like it does in the films, it plays a track because he's got his earphones in and whatnot. That's my only criticism, but not of the soundtrack, just the way that
another criticism.
Crapping on it now.
It should have had a fucking skip button for those things, because after I needed those buffs in in a few battles.
Yeah.
And you having to sit through that sort of timeout thing, and they go and do their little huddle up. It was great. Yeah. But when you've done it for the 12th time, you're like, all right, I get this now. Come on, just give me the buff.
Yeah.
I need to get me everything up. But so story brilliant. Wasn't expecting that, the amount of level of detail. the character, but yeah, the story in general, I thought it was a brilliant story. The characters that you meet along the way, the little sort of side quests that you go off and do, were interesting and fun to play. Combat was excellent. It was. If you could get it down, you started to like learn the new parts, and then you play. You only played as one character, didn't you? Star-Lord.
You basically play as Star-Lord, and you're like a command, and you can choose for your other party members to use like their specials essentially.
That's right.
And their specials have different damage types. Like one will stagger. I think Rocket's got an AOE attack, which is useful. Groot can hold people down. Those you can combine them with not just your own combat moves. You've got like the guns, which are like basically like SMGs or Uzis, essentially. But you can change the elemental damage on those, and it's fun just combining all that and blowing away some of the rooms and teaching them a lesson.
Yeah, it was brilliant. You could. It felt to me like a bit of like a Devil May Cry game where you get someone that really gets into this combat, they can absolutely devastate and make it look incredible. Yeah. I managed to do enough to sort of, because it was very much like a dead Devil May Cry game where you get scored on it, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Like some of the encounters.
Yes.
I've done enough to sort of pass, but there'd be the odd occasion where encounters and I do it and I'm like, oh, I've really blown that one. But but no, the level design was incredible. The story missions were great. The worlds looked fantastic, sort of flying to different things, and then, like you say, you had that Mass Effect aspect of going in and out of conversations. The Mass Effect of going into the ship and unlocking all this different lore. Like you said, we said before about you had this sort of conversations that you could choose different dialogue options. There's so much dialogue on it.
I like the fact that when you picked like a collectible up, there's a lot of them were like ornaments and stuff that when you went, they'd put them back in someone's room at the ship, and what it would do is unlock a conversation with that character in relation to that ornament or that artifact. So if you didn't collect it, you'd miss it. But it was cool, like have not just collecting things for the sake of it. Because I was like, and they said, that's going to be going to Drax's room. I'm like, when I get back, I'm going to ask Drax about what this means. And then you'd find out and have a nice little story moment with Drax. And
exactly.
Oh, mate.
Yeah. No, it really was. It was. I find it hard to fault it. The only thing was the 60 FPS mode. We both found that there was a vast graphical downgrade. So much like yourself, I did play through this on 30
FPS slop!
Glorious ray tracing, I must say. Looked fucking good. Some of the environments and that ray tracing did look lovely on some of the scenes.
Yeah.
Do yourself a favour if you haven't. Just watch some of the Digital Foundry footage. They really go into it in detail. And it was an incredible looking game, really.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I do. I struggle to fault this game. It ticked all the boxes for me. It was fun to play. It was quite lengthy, really, as well.
Oh yeah, it was. It isn't a 5, 6, 7, 8, even a 10-hour and done. It had some bollocks to it. Because I remember getting through it, and I was like, I must be near the end. And then I think I found out that the chapter number, and I was like, I'm halfway.
Yeah,
I was like, sweet. I've got much more of these.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah, combat was fun and engaging. Story was brilliant. The characters along there was funny moments in it. Like some of the humour really does click.
How Long to Beat's pegged it at 17.5 hours of main story. 20 hours. I mean, that's
20 hours for what you thought was just going to be like a fucking what's the Avengers campaign? That's what I suppose they had all the fucking thing to. But that's got to be under 10. So. Yeah, and I think just expectations for this were just so low that this
12 hours Marvel's Avengers.
Was it really? So
well, that's what it's claiming, isn't it? Where's the rush times?
Yeah, they do have that actually. Yeah, but
a lot of that was filler, wasn't it? That's the thing. It was because you had to go through that garbage. Whereas this is a straight through adventure game that is linear, like the game will take you there. But there's even moments that you go to a planet, like I think it's like Nowhere you can go to and wander around for ages. I went into a museum. I was wandering around
That's it.
because you got money, haven't you? And you're spending it
Oh,
on like
that's right,
gambling
yeah.
machines. I was doing all sorts. You can buy like weapons. You can. It's this really cool like narrative piece that starts at the very beginning of the game about a fine that you've got to pay that you can. Then you find out the amount and whatnot, and you can. I was always in the back of my mind thinking I should pay that off and whatnot.
Yeah.
So and throughout the game, I didn't want to go below that amount in case it didn't pay off. But I'm sure people paid it off, and there'll be a consequence to that at some point in the game. It's just like it's such a small. It's not even that important, but I just appreciate that they bothered to have that level of, straight through pulling throughout all the whole game. There's like this thread all the way from the beginning to the end.
Yeah.
Terrific.
Nah, terrific game. Yeah, I can't fault it. If you're into Marvel and event and action games in general, and up for a bit of a laugh, don't pass this by because it's fucking quality.
No,
don't nothing more left to say. It's fucking quality.
I've already unlocked the gallery.
Gallery's been unlocked.
The crowd are going
Keys
mental.
out.
Where are we taking this boy?
I am very high on it. Very high. I don't.
Is it good or great? I don't know what you're going to choose. I don't know if that's even the right question. I could be asking you another question, but
I got. Nah, I'm gonna put
best.
it.
I'll just read these out. Game Awards 2021 Best Narrative.
Best narrative.
Dice Awards Outstanding Achievement in Story it won. Adventure Game of the Year it won. It was also nominated for tons of others. Well, I'm not trying to sway you. That's not my gig.
No. Well, I'm gonna give it the gold.
Lovely jubbly.
Very gold. I'm half thinking about the platinum, but I feel it.
I was like, I was thought that it was the gold versus the silver, but you were.
Oh no! I'm thinking maybe platinum. Like I enjoyed it that much. The trouble is, it's not like it's great and it's made a lasting thing, but when you compare it to the likes of Last of Us and the Metal Gear Solids, the fucking Uncharted.
Remember, I would put something like The Last Guardian in the platinum because it's special to me.
That's true. Yeah. There was something that it's very close. I feel like I'm doing the right thing by not. It's just being. I don't know,
He wants to be taken seriously. This one.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of reasons why it shouldn't be in there, and it is difficult to It don't run at a solid 60, so that's that. Come on, mate, give us a decent 60 here. This was the first game that I played in this generation, and that's 30. So that's you fuck yourself there, haven't you? And you didn't have no cutout for that timeout. Give me a fucking cutout. That's
true. Like the timeout is cost it the platinum. That's the law that will go down.
Exactly, that will go down.
They were just. I was like, why are we? This is so weird. Yeah. For one thing, and like I'd rather just press the button and it went bzzz, and everyone got powered up, and then the music hit in. I didn't need to be like people kneeling down and being like, "What are we gonna do, Quill?"
No, that is exactly that. I think there is even a streaming mode on there in the option.
It turns off
the licensed music. I've got a feeling
because they made a whole album called after Star-Lord, like because in this law he's named after. Is it the band? The band itself.
Like a band
that's it.
Like thing.
So
they actually made a band with like an EP. I can't remember how many songs are on this on Spotify. I remember sending it to my mate who's like really into like hair metal. They fucking loved it. Cool. What's it called? It's just called Star-Lord.
Yeah, it really
Yeah, Star-Lord band. So there's 5 songs. No, there's fucking 10. There's 10. They made 10 and a whole album. Yeah, Space Rider. Yeah. They made a feature-length album of this made-up Star-Lord band.
Crazy.
Incredible.
Well done, Eidos, Montreal.
Yeah, very
And shame on you,
good.
Square Enix, for selling them off. You pigs.
Yeah.
But make sure Final Fantasy 16 is good. So.
Yeah, that's true. Very good. Like I say, it could be my special game that gets the platinum, but
he's not had enough beers tonight.
If not had enough, If I was feeling generous, the old Atkins would have done that. He would have chucked it in, and he would have been tarnished like it was for Green Book.
Green
No.
Book, the bona fide 10 out of 10. Can't be disputed.
This
It won the Oscar that year. See, once
Won
that
the
once that
Oscar.
cemented it, you were on. That was it. You were sitting there on top of the world.
But no, this really is a great game. Gold. Don't pass it up.
No, if you were thinking about it, just and I know some.
It's on Game Pass as well.
It's on Game Pass. It's on PlayStation Plus Extra. If you've got a Switch only, you can cloud stream this fucker. I don't know how it performs.
Oh.
I suspect it's awful because cloud streaming on the Switch doesn't sound appealing, but it's on all platforms and have a go at it. It's a shame that Square Enix had to come out and publicly say this didn't meet our sales expectations. It's like, well, who's in charge of the marketing? Ain't me, but ain't them. ain't IDOS. It's you fucking morons. Anyway, it's enough for them. Right, draw this episode to a close. We'll be back on the next episode of Idle Game Chat. Nothing more for us to say here other than thanks for your time and ta-da.
This was a Dimp Digital production.